Morning, Jim.
Paul,
Morning,
thanks so much. Yep, Simon's with me. So too is Graeme Souness. You're in some exalted company, Mr. Barber. Of that, there is no doubt. So, Paul, as I explained to the listeners and the viewers on YouTube and Facebook, indebted to you for doing this. Tell me about Roberto De Zerbi. Why him?
Well, we've been looking at what Roberto's been doing in Italy for a while. It's normal for our chairman, as you know, to have a long list of, or a short list rather, of coaches that we look at for a long period. And Roberto was on that list. We've been particularly interested with what he did at Sassuolo, where he managed to get a couple of top 10 finishes with a relatively small Italian club. And then obviously moved on to Shakhtar, where he did very well as well, albeit for a short time before, sadly, the war broke out. So we've been aware of Roberto for some time. He was the first choice for us, the only person that we spoke to in our process, the only person we approached in the process. And we're delighted to have him with us.
Okay. Does he speak English?
He does. He would say that his English is not as good as he'd like it to be, but he certainly can. And I would imagine over the next sort of few weeks and months, it will get even better.
Paul, Simon and Graeme no doubt want to fire off a couple at you as well. But you said you feel that Zerbi was the right cultural and technical fit. Do you want to expand on that for us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly in terms of the style of football that he plays, it's not dissimilar to Graham Potter's and the way we've evolved, the way we play football over the last 3 years. Culturally, he shares similar values to us. He comes across as a very decent human being in all of the things that he's done, both in Italy and in Ukraine. And certainly we enjoyed meeting him over a few periods last week and got to know him a little bit better. So we think he's a good fit for the club. And obviously the proof of the pudding is when the new coach gets into the Premier League and has to deal with the games that we've got coming up, away at Liverpool first off, and then at home to Spurs. We've also got City and Chelsea in October, so he's got a big run of games to get through. But we're looking forward to him joining and seeing what he can do.
When I was looking at him, Paul, I mean, you try and get some information on him through basic stuff like Wikipedia and so forth, and they don't talk about managerial statistics. They talk about his coaching career. Is he a coach or is he a manager?
No, I think he's a head coach. He likes to be on the grass. He's pretty obsessive about football, Simon, from what we can tell and from meeting him. He already had a very, very detailed knowledge of our players, the way we've been playing. He's watched some of our games. He's also watched some of Liverpool's recent games and, just seems to be absorbed in the whole business of getting teams prepared to play games at the top level. So certainly in the past, he will have managed at smaller clubs where I suspect he would probably have to get involved in a lot more things than he'd have to get involved with at our club. But they're the sort of things that we've spent a long time talking with him about this week. And we're looking forward to seeing what he can do.
You've gone in with a 4-year contract, haven't you? Which is kind of the way that you guys want to operate. You want, if you find someone that you like, you want to give them stability and surety, and the same thing for you guys. Was that his request? Was that you putting it on him in terms of we want a manager here for 4 years or 3 years or whatever timelines you think the manager's going to be there with you for? Was it a discussion that you had mutually, or was it something that you pushed upon him that you wanted a longer term contract?
No, we put forward the idea of 4 years, which again, I think 3-4 years was what they had hoped for as well. So it was very much in the same ballpark in that respect. I think without the way we are, Simon, as you know, we like to get a manager in. We like to support him as best we can. We like to make sure that our philosophies in terms of the sorts of players we want to bring in, the way we bring them in, the prices that we pay, the markets we bring them in from, we want to make sure they're all aligned with the manager's thinking, the head coach's thinking. And if we do that, and we then give him a chance to work with those players and improve them and develop them and fit them into the system that he wants to play, I think you've got to give them a reasonable amount of time to do that. You've got to back them, you've got to support them, and you've got to give them the comfort that you're going to look at things over 3 or 4 year period so that they can implement their own system as well. And I think, the initial feeling from Roberto is that the way we've been playing and the style of football that Graham had got us playing with the group of players that we had was very similar to what he would want to do anyway. I'm sure there'll be tweaks. I think every head coach that comes in will have their own little twist on things. And I'm sure that he'll have a look at our squad, and there'll be players that he'll play in maybe a slightly different way to Graham and others that he may want to bring in at a later date. But that's the fun of a new head coach, as you know only too well. And we're looking forward, as I said, to Roberto coming in and over the next month seeing what he can do.
Paul, good morning. It's Graham.
Hello, Graham.
Another Graham. Paul, normally when a manager gets a job, it's because the club's in turmoil or having a difficult time. But for your new man, he's very lucky. He's walking into what appears from the outside a settled ship. Not from the outside, but a very good squad of players. So he's a lucky boy in that respect. Can I ask you a question? Did it concern you, or does it concern you, that he's had 7 jobs in 9 years?
I think we would look at the CV in a lot of detail, and then we look into more detail as to why he left certain jobs at certain times. And of course, we did our homework on that. I think the more interest to us was not so much the earlier part of his career when he was a very young coach who just finished playing. He went into a couple of clubs that were struggling at the time with very challenging circumstances. I think we look more about the last half a decade, the time at Sassuolo, the time at Shakhtar, and took a lot of references from people that have worked with him and knew him. So, he's coming in, we think, to a very stable club. I mean, it's obviously never easy when you lose a head coach 6 games into the season. In fact, I was only on this show, I think it must have been, 2 weeks ago, Jim? Mm-hmm. And we were all talking about how good things were and how stable things were. So I think this show has become the sort of Hello magazine of sport radio in that sense, because you gave us the curse of losing our manager. But it is what it is. And I think CVs, Graham, can sometimes sort of tell incomplete stories until you actually get behind the reasons for someone leaving jobs at certain times. But we're satisfied that Roberto is one that wants to stay for a period of time. I think he would have been very happy to stay in Shakhtar if it wasn't for the war, sadly. And obviously had done 3 years with Sassuolo before that.
Can I ask how many staff is he bringing? But more importantly, what staff is he going to inherit? Because having worked abroad as a coach, it's paramount that you have people who understand the league you're playing in.
Well, Graham took his backroom staff, did he not, Paul?
Yeah, he did. Graham took 5 staff with him, but we have got a constant staff around that group as well. So all of the medical department, sports science teams, our analysts, our video analysts, our recruitment team.
What football people, Paul? What football people?
And the assistant coaches as well. So Andrew Crofts, who has been working with the first team during this interim period, been with the club for a long while, both as a player and as a coach. Has been taken our under-21. So Andrew will work with Roberto when he comes in as well. And he'll be bringing a small group with him as well, Graham, people that he's worked with before that speak English, that he trusts. And all of them, of course, are going to be new to the Premier League, and as were Graham and his staff. So again, that's the period of adjustment that we've got to make. But the staff that we put around him, the guys that know the Premier League rhythms and routines, the way we actually prepare our players for games, the training routines, they're all still here. So are the video analysts that prepare us for games and prepare the coaches for games. All of those people are still here. But certainly never easy to replace 6 people in one go. But thankfully, we've got a very stable group of people around the first team that will still be here and will be here waiting for Roberto this afternoon.
Paul, I really appreciate your time, because we've still to hear from him later on this afternoon. Can I ask you, what expectation do you place on De Zerbi at this stage, from this point until the end of the season? What is in your eyes? What does he have to do?
Well, I think we've got to be realistic, and Graham was hinting at it. I think there that coming into the Premier League for the first time, coming in with a group of staff that are new to the Premier League, we've got to give him as much support as we can, but we've also got to give him as much patience as we can. I mean, he's got 6 games in October, and that includes Liverpool, Spurs, Man City, and Chelsea. So he's certainly going to get a baptism of fire. And he's going to get to know his way around the Premier League pretty quickly. But the one thing that impressed me when I met him earlier in the week and again at the weekend was just how much knowledge he already has of us, the teams that we'll be playing against, including Liverpool coming up, and our players. And, the detailed knowledge that he had on where they played, what foot they used, what was their preferred position, what kind of systems Graham had used them in. He'd done a huge amount of work, and we were all very impressed by that. And I think, again, just shows the sort of level of commitment that you need to have to come into the Premier League these days. You can't just come in and turn up.
Who's he coming into? Who's he coming into? Paul, you? Is he coming through you to Tony? Or how does the structure at Brighton work?
So our structure works from a technical point of view. He will report to David Weir, because David, obviously our technical director with a huge amount of Premier League experience. And then on day-to-day matters, it's to me. anything that really isn't technical, anything that I can take care of, then it will be to me. But all three of us work, and previously with Graham, on a very sort of close basis. Tony's not based at the football club day to day, but gets involved obviously around transfer windows when they came around. But our structure in the football club is very well established. Everyone knows where to go, and we've talked through with Roberto how that works, and he's very comfortable with that.
I think Graham's right. I think this Graeme Souness is right here. Paul De Zerbi is the one who should be happy, because he's joining a great club and a well-run club. Not for the first time, Paul Barber, thank you. Really appreciate it. You've got a busy afternoon. Thanks for taking time out, Paul.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.